Okay, so imagine this. You walk into your favorite store, right? You're ready to like get all your stuff, all the things you always buy. And it's, instead of all this, all the shelves full and everything, it's like empty.
Yeah.
It's not like a pandemic this time though.
Right.
It's trade wars.
Oh, wow.
The US has been putting all these tariffs on, like Mexico, Canada, China, and they're not just like sitting there, they're like retaliating, putting tariffs back on the US.
Right. Yeah, it's a global like economic tug of war, you could say.
Yeah. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
It's really interesting how like our world is all like connected. What may seem like a small decision somewhere can like affect, your supermarket right down the street.
Exactly. And before we dive in though, make sure you hit that subscribe button.
Yes, please do.
So you don't miss any future times we do this.
Yeah. We'll keep you updated on how these trade wars are going and what it means for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get down to it.
Okay.
When the US puts these tariffs on other countries' stuff. Like, what does that actually mean? How does that start this whole retaliation thing?
Well, imagine you and your friend are arguing, right? And you decide to take away their favorite toy. What are they going to do? Probably take away something you like too, right?
Yeah.
That's basically what's happening with these tariffs.
Okay.
They're like economic punishments. Yeah, to help their own industries at home and try to change how other countries do trade, But you can guess it usually leads to this back and forth.
Right.
Everyone's trying to protect what they got.
So it's kind of like a big game of chicken.
Exactly.
Everyone's hoping the other side will back down first.
Yeah, and it's it's high stakes. We're not talking about some theory in a textbook. It's real, it affects real businesses and jobs and the prices you pay at the store.
So let's get specific.
Okay.
What are some of the big things that are stuck in the middle of this US-Mexico trade war?
So from the U.S. side, we're seeing these tariffs on a bunch of stuff coming from Mexico, like agricultural things, grains, and meats, automotive parts,
right? Yeah.
Which our car companies need, machinery, industrial machinery, and even energy products.
Wow.
And Mexico's not just watching; they're trying to make more stuff themselves, so they don't need to rely on the U.S. so much.
Yeah.
So that could mean less people wanting to buy from the U.S. and that could affect American jobs.
So you're saying that these tariffs could actually backfire on us?
It's a worry for sure.
Yeah.
And it's not just some made up thing. Some people think these trade wars could mean a lot of people in the U.S. losing their jobs, maybe millions. Yeah.
That's a lot of people.
It is. And to think about it, that's almost as much as when the pandemic was really bad. Oh,
wow.
Yeah.
And speaking of Mexico, the stuff we've been reading said that their president's taking a weird approach to all of this.
Yeah,
right?
that's right. Even though the U.S. put these tariffs on them,
right?
The Mexican president is all about working together and talking it out. He wants to be diplomatic instead of making things worse.
So he's not trying to make this trade war even bigger.
No, not really. In fact, he's been saying how the U.S. and Mexico can team up on stuff, especially fighting drug trafficking.
Right.
Mexico says they've been really successful at taking away fentanyl and stopping those drug operations.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Do you think all this stuff with the drugs will change how the U.S. is acting with these tariffs? I'd love to know what you guys think.
It's definitely a difficult thing with so much going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Now we've talked a lot about, the U.S. and Mexico.
Right.
But things aren't, perfect with Canada either.
No.
What's going on up north?
So the U.S. put tariffs on some Canadian stuff too. And surprise, surprise, Canada put tariffs back on the U.S. And
right.
some of the big things the U.S. sells to Canada are cars, machinery, even nuclear reactors. Those are all feeling it, But Canada's not just sitting back.
Yeah.
They're doing some pretty crazy stuff to prove a point.
Like what? Give me the good stuff.
Okay, so the Premier of British Columbia, he basically said, get all the American liquor off the shelves, Wow. They're saying, if you're going to be tough with these tariffs, we're going to hit you where it hurts, Wow,
that's sending a message for sure.
Yeah.
What do you think that'll do to U.S. businesses and people buying stuff.
Well, those American liquor companies,
Yeah.
they could like lose a ton of money if they can't sell in Canada anymore.
Right.
And for people buying stuff,
Yeah.
well, those empty shelves might start looking like familiar again.
Yeah.
Like back in the pandemic.
Nobody wants to go back to that.
No.
And speaking of like shortages, the stuff we read mentioned like a possible energy crisis.
This is where it gets really, really interesting.
Okay.
Some states in the U.S., they rely a lot on energy from Canada.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about places like New York and Minnesota. They get like 95% of their energy from Ontario.
Wow. 95%.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So like what happens if Ontario's like, okay, we're using our energy to like fight back in this trade war?
Oh, then we could have a real energy crisis in those states.
Right.
Like, blackouts, prices going way up.
Yeah.
All sorts of problems.
So we've got like possible job losses, empty shelves.
Yeah.
And maybe even like an energy crisis.
It's becoming pretty clear that these trade wars are like about way more than just numbers. They can like affect everything in our lives.
Exactly. And we're just like scratching the surface here.
Yeah.
These trade wars are also making prices go up everywhere.
Yep.
Like it's affecting like everything from the cars we drive to the toys kids play with.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying that even if like you don't lose your job or have like energy problems, you'll still feel it like when you buy stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, these tariffs, they kind of make everything more expensive for everyone.
Okay. So like give me some examples.
Okay. Let's think about cars.
Okay.
Most people, have a car or want one.
Right.
So these tariffs on parts and stuff that come from other places,
Yeah.
that means new cars are going to cost more, probably.
Okay.
And then that affects used cars too.
How so?
Well, if new cars are super expensive,
Yeah.
then more people want used cars, right?
Right.
And that makes the price of used cars go up too.
So no matter what, you're going to pay more.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. What else? What else will cost more?
Well, get ready for this. Car insurance.
Oh,
No, it's probably going to go up too because, car parts are more expensive now.
Right.
Insurance companies, they got to raise their prices too.
So basically, having a car is just going to be way more expensive.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. What about other stuff? Like, are we going to see empty shelves everywhere?
It could happen. One thing that might be really bad is toys.
Toys? Really?
Yeah, a lot of toys are made, in other countries.
Right.
And those tariffs,
Yeah.
they make those toys way more expensive.
Okay.
So stores, they don't want to stock up on expensive toys, especially if they think people won't buy them.
So, like, we could see those empty shelves again.
It's possible, especially with the holidays coming up.
Yeah. That's not good.
It's not. But, we got to remember, this is all still changing.
Right.
We're just seeing the beginning of how these trade wars are going to affect things.
Okay.
Yeah, the full picture, we don't know yet.
So it's like we're watching this big experiment happen, but with like the whole world.
Yeah, and nobody knows how it's going to end.
It's kind of scary.
It is. There's so much going on.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to like say what's going to happen for sure.
So it's like be prepared for anything.
Right. Pay attention to what's happening, look at it from different angles, and try to understand what it could mean.
So be informed and ready for whatever comes next.
Exactly. Yeah, these trade wars, they're like a big chess game.
Oh, okay.
Every country's making moves,
Right.
trying to like outsmart each other.
Yeah.
And even with all this like tension and stuff,
Yeah.
there might be some good things that come out of it.
Good things. Really, I'm having a hard time seeing that.
Think about it this way. All this is making businesses rethink how they get their stuff.
Oh, okay.
Like where they get their materials and parts.
Yeah.
They're finding new places to buy from.
Right.
And they're trying to make more stuff here at home.
So like maybe this could make the world's economy like stronger in the long run?
That's one way to look at it sometimes, when things are tough. It makes people come up with new ideas.
Right.
So these trade wars could lead to new like technologies and businesses.
So maybe there is like a light at the end of this tunnel.
Maybe, but even if there is,
Yeah.
we still got to deal with all this uncertainty right now.
Yeah, for sure.
So what are some things we should be watching for, like, as all this keeps happening?
Well, I think one big thing is how these trade wars are like changing how countries get along.
Yeah, you're right. It's not just about money. It's also about, like, power and how countries treat each other.
Right.
The U.S., Mexico, and Canada, they've been, like, good friends for a long time.
Yeah.
But all this fighting,
Yeah.
it could mess that up.
It's like that playground thing you said before, like 1 minute everyone's sharing and the next it's a big fight.
Exactly. And this like tension can spread to other stuff too. Like working together on, keeping everyone safe or protecting the environment.
Right. So it's not just like how much our food costs, but also how countries are gonna like act with each other.
Right. Yeah. And that brings us to another big thing, how this affects global supply chains.
Okay, what are those?
So for the last few decades, companies have been getting their stuff from all over the world.
Right.
But these trade wars, they're messing that up. Companies are having to rethink where they get their stuff.
Right.
And that could mean prices going up even more and things taking longer to get here.
So even if something doesn't have a tariff on it, it could still cost more because maybe some of its parts come from a country that's in a trade war.
Exactly. It's all connected. Think about a phone, the different parts. They could be made in 5 different countries.
Wow.
Then they get put together somewhere else and then shipped all over.
Right.
So if something messes up any part of that, with tariffs or whatever, it can affect everything.
Wow. It really shows how complicated the whole world's economy is.
It is, yeah. And that's part of why these trade wars are so hard to predict.
Right.
There's so much happening.
Yeah.
It's hard to know what'll happen.
And speaking of unpredictable, we haven't really talked about China.
Right.
They're a huge part of the world's economy.
Yeah.
And the U.S. has tariffs on them too. What's going on there?
The U.S.-China trade war, that's a whole other thing.
Okay.
It's been going on for a while now.
Right.
Both sides are putting tariffs on billions of dollars worth of stuff.
Wow.
It's affecting businesses and people in both countries.
So what's the latest?
It's kind of they're both stuck.
Oh, okay.
They both say they want to talk, but they're also being stubborn.
Okay.
There hasn't been a big agreement or anything.
Yeah.
And it's even harder because the U.S. and China, they have other problems too.
Right.
Not just trade stuff.
Yeah.
So it's really messy.
So it's like a poker game. Everyone's trying to win.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And we don't know who's going to win.
Nope. It's going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah, for sure. But to answer your question, the U.S.-China trade war is it's complicated and always changing.
Yeah.
And definitely something to watch.
Yeah.
And speaking of watching, we wanted to go back to what we talked about before with Mexico and them fighting drug trafficking.
Oh yeah, that's important.
It makes you think, will that actually change how the U.S. is acting with those tariffs? It's a tough question, no easy answers.
It is, yeah.
If you guys find this interesting, hit that like button. Let us know what you think. We love hearing from you.
Yeah, it's something to think about.
Totally. And it just shows, these trade wars aren't just about money.
Right.
They're connected to all this other stuff too, politics, social problems.
Yeah, it's all tied together.
Okay, so let's change gears a bit and talk about what we can do as regular people with all this craziness going on. Yeah, it feels like we're stuck in this crazy storm,
Yeah.
And it's hard to know what to even do.
Yeah.
So what can people do, with all this uncertainty?
Well, you're already doing something really important just by being here listening to this,
right.
Trying to understand what's going on. That's the first step to making good decisions,
Okay. That makes sense. Knowledge is power.
Oh,
right.
Definitely.
But sometimes it's too much information,
Yeah.
How can we stay informed about all this without getting overwhelmed?
I'd say start by noticing how all this stuff is affecting you personally.
Okay.
Are prices going up at the store?
Right.
Are people at your work talking about losing jobs?
Yeah.
Are you seeing less stuff on the shelves?
Right.
Those are all real signs that these trade wars are actually doing something,
Yeah, it's true. Sometimes it feels far away, but then you see it affecting your own life.
Right, exactly. And don't be afraid to ask questions and get different opinions. Talk to people, read articles, have real conversations about this stuff.
Yep.
The more you know,
right,
the better you can deal with whatever happens.
And speaking of staying informed,
yeah,
make sure you hit that subscribe button.
Yes, please.
So you don't miss our future episodes, whatever we call these.
Yeah, we'll keep giving you the information you need to understand all this.
Right, because we're all in this together, right?
Absolutely. And if we all stay informed, we can work together to find solutions that are good for everyone.
For sure. Okay, before we go, I want to bring up something we talked about earlier.
Okay.
About Mexico and them fighting drug trafficking.
Yeah.
Do you think that'll change how the U.S. is acting with the tariffs, it's like a complicated thing.
It is, yeah.
And it's something to like keep thinking about as all this stuff keeps happening.
It is.
If you have any thoughts on that, let us know in the comments.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, and if you like today's discussion, make sure to give us a like.
Yeah, that helps other people find us.
Okay, so that's it for today.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into trade wars and all that.
We hope you learned something.
Yeah.
And that it made you think.
And keep being curious, stay engaged,
Yeah.
and stay informed.
Absolutely.
And we'll see you next time.
See ya.